Another tape loom. Only this one has some really nice wood. Welcome back to the shop and the channel. What I have here is a 2-treadle tape loom, 18th, 17th, 16th, 15th century. It makes cloth tape. I'll show you in a minute what I mean by that. Now we have a deep dive 18-part thing. I think I'm going to put into a playlist, and I'll send you to the first episode of that in the comments of Mara and I making 2 of these for customers. We made others too, but 2 of these in the customers for a customer on our channel. And we have an order, or Mara has an order for another one. And it's going to be made out of this. What we have here is some 6/4 cherry. I went to my supplier out in Culpeper, Virginia. We bought 8/4, 625 a board foot. They milled it for us on both sides to 6/4. And the reason 6/4 is a lot of the parts come out of 6/4 stock. The table is 6/4 and the legs are 6/4. So those are what we're getting the big parts out of. All the rest, smaller parts, will come out of the rest of what's left over. This was a 12-inch by 10-foot long piece, 8/4, like I said, milled both sides to 6/4. The customer has asked for it to be made out of cherry, and cherry it will be. Now, the beauty of this project is this is the first time in all the woodworking I've done all my life that I can build a project from a single tree. This all came from the same tree. So it will stain, or we're not going to stain it really, but it will finish and age beautifully and symmetrically through the whole thing. So it's all coming out of this. It came out of one tree. This is Allegheny area of Pennsylvania cherry. So what you do with a tape loom is you make tapes. Look at this picture. It's a little bit of a close-up of some tape that Mara's been making. Now this goes to events that we do, and we let kids play with it and learn how to do this stuff. And of course, what that causes is some inconsistency in the tape, but that's okay. And the heddles right here, they go up and down. We do it with the feet, up and down, and that shifts the warp, which is the stuff that goes in this direction, up and down, so you can go between the warp with the weft, which is this. So warp goes a long way across here. The weft goes across this way. So warp and weft. Now you know what those mean. I don't think anything else I could tell you about this except for, oh yeah, it's all rolled up on a drum in the back. The warp is. And this is kind of the hardest part of doing any kind of weaving. You have to get everything wound back up onto the warp in the right order, and then get it through the heddles correctly and start the project at the other end. I just call it creative fidgeting because I don't know how to do this. I just creative fidgeting. So let's get started. What I'm going to do, let's get started. Yeah, what I'm going to do in this video is basically I'm just going to break these boards down into the component pieces we need to get these parts out of. So if you look at this drawing, this is from Cutlist, which is my software I use for measuring up and doing where my cuts are going to be and how many boards I need for whatever. And you can see it's not a whole lot of cuts on this, and I got a lot of extra wood on the end of these pieces, which is going to be from here to there, and that will get all the some of the smaller parts out of. It's going to require cross cuts, rip cuts, resawing, and planing. So let's get started by getting the table out, which is by far the easiest thing to do. So this video is basically about breaking down wood. It's a simple process. You want to do it as logically as you can, and you want to do it in the steps that makes sense. Like you don't. It's hard to explain, but you have so much wood, you want to get as many pieces out of it as you can. And let me get my drawing again that you saw on camera I mean, on earlier in the video, my cut list sheet here. Okay, so this I'm getting this big thing out of over here. That's the top or the table for the tape loom, and that is by far the biggest piece. Now, so I've got enough here to get it out, not a problem. First thing I want to do is square one end. This is the straightest edge on this piece. This is kind of a wavy edge. So this side's going through the jointer, this side's going through the table saw. But I want to square one end. The table is 31.5 inches long. I'm going to go a little longer so I have a little bit to play with for getting it to the exact length. And considering that this is a big piece of wood and the saw is going to come all the way out to here, it's going to be several passes. And of course, one must have tunage when using the table, using a loud saw. So what I'm doing now is I'm setting it up. I'm going to bring the camera in closer a little bit. What I'm doing here, I want to get this end to where I can square it up nicely. Now I have a zero clearance insert here, which gives me a kind of a rough edge of where the blade's going to go, and I'm going to keep it up against this fence. I haven't got my other fence up yet, so let's go forward. Now, so what I'm seeing is it's starting to cover it here, and it's not covering it there. So let me move forward a little bit. I'm just going to nip off that end right there, and it's pushed up against the fence. All right, that gives you my square edge. The next thing to do is to cut it to length. I found a wee problem with a chop saw. Further explanation after this time lapse of some adjustments. So what I found out was, and link in the description, this is why I made the table for the chop saw adjustable up and down right corner, corners and everything. So this is why I made the table adjustable. So that I can get things square when I need to, because it's things settle, wood settles. So that's why I did that. So now I've got it pretty much set up the way I want. So I'm going to do a couple of thin passes on this end, flip it around, do the measurement, do a couple of thin passes on the other end, then we'll have the length correct. And here we go. $31.5, $11.5. See, now you see it's not just a matter of cutting the wood, it's getting precise, kind of anal with the measurements and dimensions. So this is the top. There are, like I said, there are two tapers on either side, which will be cut. We'll pick one end for that later, and then we can do it, chuck it up into the CNC machine and cut the mortises in it. That, that's watching paint dry, basically, watching the mortises being cut. From the cutoff piece of the top, I'm going to get the four legs are going to come out of this hunk of wood, which are only going to be about that. I'll nip that off, but there'll be four legs will come out of here. The two vertical towers for the heddles will be here and here, and that's it's not waste wood. I can cut pieces out of this for other parts, but I'm going to do a rip cut here first, then a cross cut here, and then a rip cut, two rip cuts there. So these are the two pieces that are going to be the towers on either side of the heddles. Mortise and tenon into the base, mortise and tenon into the top that's going to go over it, the cross piece. The 4 legs will come out of this piece right here. And then, of course, clank the top of it. So be prepared for another t-shirt. Different t-shirt. Day 2. So for the next parts I'm going to get out of the big blanks of wood are the heddles. These pieces right here. These are 11 by 9 1/4 inches. And it has to be resawn down to 5/8 and then planed to 1/2 inch, because these are 1/2 inch pieces, and then I can chuck them up into the CNC machine and do all these fiddly bits on them. So that's next. Let's go back to the chop saw and maybe some time lapse. To make sure that I got the distance, the width of these things correctly, I made a story stick that goes into the dados on either side on those towers, so I can get I'll get the heddles to fit in there correctly, a little more snugly. That's an original made by the guy that used to make these, who's passed away. We got the plans from his family, and well, actually, they're just drawings. It's not really plans. And those heddles are too narrow. They kind of flop around in the towers, and we go for a little better, snugger fit. Well, not snug. They want to slide easily, but we're better fit. So I did a story stick. Now, like the other pieces of wood, I'm going to clean off one edge, measure down, and cut the 11 inches, and then rip it to the right width, and then this will be resawn. One side will go against the fence, the other side will go against the fence, so I get one side will be flat on each piece to go through the planer. You'll see what I mean when I get there. I found that I can put fairly short pieces through that planer, and that works out really well. So 11 inches is not a big deal. So there's the 2 heddles are coming out here. I made it a little bit longer so we can play with the height a little bit. I don't know if we need to do that or not. So next thing I do is I'll rip this into the width, and then the resawing will come later. What you just saw me cut out is this long piece, and that's going to have all of the uprights that you saw on here, the smaller uprights for the to hold the drums and everything on the let me show you. What I mean by that are these uprights and these uprights and this upright right here, and all those are going to come out of that piece of wood, but also these treadles down here. These pedals are going to come out of that same piece of wood. It's going to require a bunch of resawing. So we're going to do some resawing at some point. So that's what that piece of wood is for. What this is a blank that I'm going to get out the wood that's going to become the turned drums on the treadle loom and tape loom. There's one large one and 2 small ones. So I'm going to cut this so I can do a glue up for the large one, and then cut out 2 pieces that I can use Mara can use to turn out the small ones. So after all that, we have the blanks to get the parts out for the loom, treadle loom. What we have, of course, the table, which self-explanatory. It gets a taper at one end, and then it gets mortises cut into it, and of course it gets holes drilled for the legs, of which are coming out of this piece. All 4 legs will come out of this piece. They're tapered, reverse tapered, and then turned at the top to come through the top or table of the saw of the loom. There are gears and pawls, picture, on this thing that locks up the drum so you keep your weave tight. They're all going to come out of this piece of wood here. I did the glue up for the large drum for the warp, which is at the back, picture here. There are the two smaller drums or rollers up at the front, and they're going to come out of these two pieces, but you can actually get them both out of one. So there's that. The tower that has the heddles, these are the pieces for the tower and the heddles. So this is the tower and the top, heddles running up and down inside. The heddles will come out of this piece, which will get resawn, and then planed to the right thickness, which is 1/2 inch. All the little uprights, look at this picture I'm pointing at, all the little upright pieces and the feet come out of this. The feet for the treadles come out of this long piece here. So I'm basically going to resaw this down and plane it to 7/8, then cut off where the feet are going to go and plane that down to 1/2 inch. The feet are attached, look at this picture here. The feet are attached to a cross member with a dowel running through it. The cross member is going to come out of this piece of wood right here. So there are all the parts ready to proceed to the next step. So in the next video, it's going to be all resawing and planing and finishing these parts out to where we can actually cut them to shape. So until next time, make great things out of wood and get a plank out of a single tree and make something out of it.